There are two theories behind this study. First, Paulo Freire's critical literacy theory. Critical literacy is the backbone of this study because Harper is seeking real-world change through utilizing text. Throughout Harper's study, she also encourages critical literacy about text through instruction. Through exposing students to social issues within text and encouraging discussion, her students were able to make connections to their own experiences. Eventually, students were able to transfer what they learned about social injustices to their own world. The other theory is Guy's discourse theory. Throughout her study, Harper examines the impact of culturally diverse text on her class, a specific discourse of predominantly white students. Throughout this study, Harper also sees new discourses within her classroom emerge. She uses the term discourse often and throughout the study seeks to impact her discourse of students to form a new discourse. There are three influences on Harper's study. The first is Lewis. Lewis coined the term white space, which refers to a group of people who are predominantly white. This term is used throughout Harper's study. Lewis also suggests that schools become the avenue for education about cultural stereotypes and social issues within a predominantly white community. Overall, he emphasizes the need for all people to be educated about social issues in society today. The second influence is Wills. Wills emphasized the impact of multicultural text on all white students to enhance instruction with a focus on stereotypes and assumptions. Finally, Rosenblatt. At a point in Harper's study, she became surprised that multiple students were having very different responses to the same piece of text. Harper then reflected on Rosenblatt's thinking and was reminded that the same text will have a different meaning and value to the reader at different times and under different circumstances. Some state of mind, a worry, a bias, or social crisis may impact students' response to text. The findings of the study. First, while in the middle of the study, Harper determined that students exist on continuum of readiness for wanting to deal with difficult issues about race and racism. This came from the observation that some students were embracing the new text in the classroom, while other students were not as excited about the text that contained social issues. And that brings us to the next finding, was that some students embraced text, while the others requested a happy book and demonstrated resistance. Also, by the end of the study, nearly all students were taking more of a critical literacy stance when reading. Also, all students' awareness and acknowledgement of social issues increased. And finally, Harper herself developed a critical sensitivity towards the kinds of books and reading experiences she chose because she was able to determine that the text need to meet the needs and change based on the interests of the students. And the implications for practice. Teachers should expose all students to both fiction and nonfiction text that addresses social issues and confronts issues of race, racism, and cultural differences. Students should be encouraged to take a critical literacy stance when reading text, and teachers should allow students freedom and choice when stories push students beyond their comfort zone and their attitudes shift negatively to text. And my connections. While reading Harper's study, I was able to connect with the school system which Harper worked, because as a student I feel like I was educated in that school system and I needed to learn about society in college because I wasn't ever really taught that in my educational experiences. Also, as a researcher, I was able to understand how a research study can be formulated from a question, and how her study evolves is allowing me to see how my study may evolve through the course of this class.